The sun no longer sets on Nigerians. This is because Nigerians can now be found in virtually all nations and regions of the world. In Tall Drums, we bring you stories of Nigerians making remarkable contributions to the improvement of the human condition. Here is your host, Dr. Ugoji Ugoji.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Tall Drums. On July 25th, 2006, President Olusegun Obasanjo hosted the first ever Diaspora Day in Abuja. Over 1,000 people from abroad came home for that day. Tall Drums was invited to put together a video documentary of Nigerians abroad. In this episode of Tall Drums, we bring you that video documentary, The Nigerian Diaspora, an introduction.
Tall Drums is presented by Sungai Corporation, publishers and consultants.
For over a century now, Nigerians have migrated from their homeland to virtually all regions and nations of the world. We've migrated for business, work, leisure, and sometimes to escape difficult economic and political conditions. Many of our founding fathers were known to have traveled outside Nigeria for education and other adventures. In fact, the ideologies and consciousness that fueled the quest for political independence of Nigeria in the 1950s were conceived by Nigerians in the diaspora at that time. My name is Ugoji Ugoji. In this brief presentation, Tall Drums, in collaboration with the Office of the Nigerian National Volunteer Services, provides an introduction to the Nigerian diaspora. It is a preliminary introduction because in the months to come there is a plan to develop a more elaborate documentary about the Nigerian diaspora. According to Ambassador Joe Keshi, the coordinator of Nigeria's National Office for Volunteer Services, the word diaspora essentially refers to dispersion or migration from the homeland. The homeland in this case is the citadel of contemporary black civilization on the west coast of Africa called Nigeria.
The Nigerian diaspora consists of Nigerians who over the years migrated from this country to various parts of the world. It also consists of Nigerian students who have finished their studies and are no more interested in coming back home, as against what obtained in the 60s, when virtually every student who studied abroad was keen to rush back home. And now also it consists of the new generation of the two, of those born by parents who have migrated to all over the world. And now we have a large and growing population of Nigerians all over the world.
The Nigerian diaspora stretches from the United Kingdom and all of Europe to the Americas, including the United States, to Asia, including China, Japan, and India, and even to the cold region of Antarctica. Well, you see, there is this story about Russians arriving at Antarctica for ice fishing, only to find a Nigerian offering them kola nuts. As they examined the kola, the Nigerian asked them which one on a fine corn self. In other words, the sun no longer sets on Nigerians because we can now be found all over the world. About 5 million Nigerians live and work outside Nigeria. with many families now in the fourth generation of Nigerians born to Nigerian parents abroad. In 1994, Private Citizen General Olusegun Obasanjo participated in 2 meetings with a group of Nigerians under what was then known as the Nigerian Network in New York. During the second meeting, hosted in collaboration with the African Leadership Forum at the Nigeria House, the idea of a Nigerians in the Diaspora organization was planted, according to the minutes of that meeting. Soon after the meeting, General Olusegun Obasanjo was arrested and jailed in Nigeria. Upon the return to democracy in 1999, General Obasanjo, now the newly elected President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, engaged Nigerians again in dialogues in Atlanta, US, and in London, UK in 2000. Beyond the lively and sometimes heated exchanges between the President and his compatriots during those encounters, President Obasanjo sought to implement an idea that had its roots in the 1994 meetings. He found willing partners within and outside the system, and thus the Nigerians in the Diaspora organization NIDO was set up in America, in Europe, and in Asia, and about 5 chapters in Africa. Subsequently, the Nigerian National Office of Volunteer Services was established in Abuja to work with NIDO and other Nigerians in the diaspora. Dr. Ola Kasim is the chairman of NIDO in the Americas. The results have ranged from humanitarian activities at home by Nigerians in the diaspora to huge investments in many sectors of the economy. For instance, on an annual basis, it is estimated that the Nigerian diaspora remits over $5 billion to kith and kin in Nigeria. Western Union has done brisk business with Nigerians in the diaspora. The Nigerian National Office of Volunteer Services has orchestrated collaborative events and ventures, including but not limited to the Conference on Bridging the Digital and Scientific Divides, Forging Partnerships with Nigerians in the Diaspora, a conference held in Abuja on July 25th to 27th, 2005. Over 400 delegates from home and abroad attended that conference. There is now an annual day designated as Diaspora Day, thanks to President Olusegun Obasanjo, with July 25th being that day in 2006. This gesture by the President represents the nation's desire for a coordinated and meaningful engagement between the home front and the diaspora in the task of nation building. Central to all the attempts to form various groups in the diaspora is an undeniable desire on the part of our people to connect with one another and connect with Nigeria. Naturally, the organizing has taken place along the lines of the various dimensions that define our existence. For instance, groups have come together on the basis of ethnic identities and kindred affiliations. Examples include the Urobo National Organization in the US, the American Federation of Mbisa Associations, the World Igbo Congress, Egbe Omo Yoruba, and Zumunta, to mention only a few. In their activities, the World Igbo Congress has issued scholarships, sponsored activities in youth development in Nigeria, and initiated the building of a manufacturing plant at Oji River for the veterans of the war. Among other activities, Zumunta has distributed computers to universities and schools in northern Nigeria and published a book about the peoples and cultures of northern Nigeria. Egbe Omo Yoruba has held over 12 conventions in the United States, stressing its quest for what it refers to as autonomy and true federalism for the Yoruba and other ethnic nationalities within Nigeria. At the national identity level, groups such as Organization of Nigerian Professionals, Nigerian People's Forum, and various Nigerian foundations have been corporate citizens of various municipalities overseas. While NIDO is perhaps the first unifying entity overtly created and supported by a Nigerian government, most of the other groups have had their events attended by Nigerian diplomats in the various Nigerian embassies and consulates around the world. The Echo Club International has delivered computers to Lagos State University, refurbished science laboratories in several Lagos State schools, and held several remarkable events, one of which honored doctors that performed the surgery which separated the Siamese twins in Nigeria. And on gender basis, Our women have formed groups that bring them together abroad. An example is the National Association of Nigerian Women for Excellence, which published a coffee table book on Nigerian women in America in 2000. Titled Arise, the book was edited by Josephine Okoronkwo-Ono and Matilda Onyeneku. There is also the Nigerian Women's Association of Georgia that was founded by Mrs. Keshi. The group has given scholarships in Nigeria, donated goods and services to orphanages, and presents what it calls Woman of Valor Award each year. Their 2006 honoree was Professor Dora Akunyele, the Director General of Nigeria's NAFDAC. The Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, AMPA, has provided free medical missions to various parts of Nigeria and has participated in the debate and development of the Nigerian National Health Insurance Scheme, which President Obasanjo flagged off in July of 2005 after over 40 years of debate and planning.
Tall Drums is presented by Songhai Corporation, publishers and consultants.
The Nigerian identity and its inherent cultural essentials remain part of the Nigerian diaspora. For instance, there is no food eaten in Nigeria that is not served on dinner tables in the Nigerian diaspora daily. Companies such as Shiba Foods, headed by Kumi Oluloye in Atlanta, help bring some of these foods to American supermarkets around the world. At our parties abroad, you will think we never left Nigeria. The clothes we wear, the styles in which we wear them, leave our host communities abroad with no doubt about whom we are. The music is Nigerian, with just as much diversity in genre as there is at home. Even our children abroad are doing high life, juju, apala, and abibo with the same gusto they do hip-hop and dance hall music. In sports, some of the best athletes in the world are Nigerians doing their thing abroad. For instance, in basketball, Emeka Okafor, the A student leader of the 2004 University of Connecticut College champions, has followed the likes of Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon to the National Basketball Association professional ranks. He was voted the Rookie of the Year during his first year of professional basketball. Even in the American preserve of football, what they call football, the current world champions are the Pittsburgh Steelers of Pennsylvania. Among the members of the championship team are two Nigerians, Chidi Iwoma and Chuck Okobi. Believe me, you don't want to run into these guys in the open field. Permit us now to pay particular attention to the positive exploits of individual Nigerians in the Nigerian diaspora. We present here only a few representative names, fully cognizant that there are thousands, perhaps millions more, who deserve mention. In the next months and years, we shall collaborate with various Nigerian groups around the world to produce a more comprehensive profile and portrait. Dr. Henrietta Ukwu has served various pharmaceutical companies in the areas of pharmacology and regulatory affairs. She is currently the Vice President of Wyeth, a leading global pharmaceutical company. A leading researcher in AIDS HIV, Dr. Alashile Abimuku works at the Institute of Human Virology at the University of Maryland, USA. From serving Nigeria at the highest levels in foreign affairs, Professor Ibrahim Gambari has moved on to become Under-Secretary General for Political Affairs at the United Nations. Professor Tony Falola is recognized as a leader of the second generation of African historians whose Africa-centered scholarship has changed, challenged, and energized the field of history. With an endowed professorial chair at the University of Texas at Austin and over 50 books to his name, Falola holds an annual conference on Nigeria at Austin. Dr. Nelson Oyesheku was until recently the president of the Neurosurgeon Association of America. In December 2005, the Southern University at New Orleans appointed Dr. Victor Ukpolo as its chancellor, making him perhaps the only Nigerian heading a university in America. Dr. Ferdinand Ofodile is regarded as a foremost authority in plastic surgery, with particular expertise in plastic surgery for African people. In Singapore, Dr. Jonathan Obaje and his colleagues have developed, adapted, and commercialized innovative technologies for local tests in foods and pharmaceuticals. Dr. Obaje is currently the acting chair of NIDO in Singapore, which is part of NIDO Asia. In Albany, Georgia, Dr. Rex Ajayi is the leading authority on prostate cancer, a topic which he hopes to address at this conference. You cannot name 5 heart specialists in Atlanta without the mention of Dr. Patrick Egbe, nor would cardiology practice in South Carolina be discussed without the name of Dr. John Ijem being mentioned. In corporate America, Bayo Ogunleshi is perhaps Nigeria's top corporate executive. He is the vice president of Credit Suisse, headquartered in New York. There is, of course, the story of Casey Lawal, whose Kamak Holdings was just named Black Enterprise Magazine's Corporation of the Year, on course to becoming the largest black-owned business in the world. From oil exploration, refining, and trading, Lawal's Houston-based company raked in an astonishing $1 billion in revenue last year alone. Also operating out of Houston, Mr. Kenneth Yellow spent more than 12 years battling to fulfill his dream in Nigeria's gas development. He built a $250 million gas processing plant close to Bonny. It is perhaps the single largest private indigenous enterprise in the Niger Delta. Professor Barton Naji has gone beyond his expertise in artificial intelligence and beyond being the director of the U.S. Center for Excellence in E-Design to now heading Geometric Power Limited in Nigeria. GPL built an emergency power plant in Abuja and is now poised to build an independent power plant in Aba, Abia State. Dr. Olusegun Fayemi is trained in pathology, but his exploits in the photographic presentation of African people has brought him more attention. He has published at least 3 books in photography. Meme Omobai is perhaps the only Nigerian chief operating officer of a major museum in the United States. With this clout, she organized a historic meeting and conversation between 2 Nigerian cultural icons, Professor Chinua Achebe and Professor Uche Okeke, at the Newark Museum in New Jersey on June 2, 2006. Professor Mani Aniebonam heads the Nigerian Information Technology Professionals in America. He and the group have helped establish the AfriHub ICT capacity building at University of Nigeria in Nsukka and at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Professor Raymond Akule of George Mason University, Virginia, has established over 30 net post cyber centers in Nigeria. His involvement with Nigerian Postal Service has transformed NIPOST. Dr. Vincent Ahonkai is a vice president for regulatory affairs at GlaxoSmithKline. He is currently involved in GlaxoSmithKline's efforts to develop a vaccine for malaria, the leading medical challenge in Africa. Steve Adekunle and Chiaka Oku are visible correspondents on 2 of America's preeminent television networks, ABC World News and NBC Nightly News, respectively. Apart from the networks, Laola Akande of The Guardian, Chido Wangu of African News Online, Sowore Omoyele of Sahara Reporters in New York, Jonathan Elendo of ElendoReports.com, Tess Obioha of The Nigerian in New York, and Chika Onyani of African Sun Times have combined to represent Nigeria in the news gathering business. On the activism front, Professor Bolaji Aluko of Howard University in Washington, D.C. has been a noted thorn in the flesh of tyrants. Aluko is a professor of chemical engineering at Howard University. Nigerian musicians have also brought their art form to the rest of the world, from Sade to Majek Fashek, and from the self-styled queen of Hikoso music Floxy B to the opera and classical singer Abiodun Koya Nigerian artists have strived to rank among the best in the world. Finally, there is the humble effort by those of us at Tall Drums to bring the stories of the Nigerian diaspora to television screens around the world. On July 11, 2006, NTA Channel 5 Abuja aired the first episode of Tall Drums, a Nigerian American journal. The program now airs on the station on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. The 30-minute show is now syndicated to African Independent Television AIT and to Imo Broadcasting Service Owerri. We are negotiating to air the program on public television in the United States. The program has received the enthusiastic support and endorsement of Honorable Minister Frank Nweke Jr. of Nigeria's Ministry of Information and National Orientation. Please visit us at talldrums.com for past episodes of the program. We'll begin to end this narrative by commending President Olusegun Obasanjo for the significant presence in his administration of some of our compatriots that used to be part of the Nigerian diaspora. The opportunities for these men and women to return and the reported impact of their talents and services are testimonials to the importance of the Nigerian diaspora. My compatriots, here is wishing you a successful conference, and here is hoping that in the months and years to come, the foundation of meaningful links which President Obasanjo has established between the Nigerian diaspora, the Nigerian government, and the Nigerian people at home would only get stronger. May we see each other more and more as necessary partners in a greater and more equitable Nigeria, with shared responsibilities and rights. May each of you become what you are destined to be.
Tall Drums is presented by Songhai Corporation, publishers and consultants.
The last word for this episode is regarding the Diaspora Day. We want to congratulate President Olusegun Obasanjo and the Office of the National Volunteer Service for the effort that went into putting together Diaspora Day 2006. We at Tall Drums are quite honored to have been asked to put together the video documentary that you just saw. Until next week, that's our show for this week. I'm Ugoji. I wish you peace, justice, and liberty. May you become all that you're destined to be.